Our world is full of many true horror stories, and rarely do we find anyone without experience with the world of jinn and demons. There are many lovers of this kind of stories, and there are also those among us who cannot hear them, neither from near nor from afar. In order to achieve the truth, these stories need people with strong hearts to hear them and talk about them. We have come up with real written horror stories to consolidate them and take them as lessons. Horror stories told by soldiers. Terrifying stories in the army vary between what is fictional and what is realistic. Some of them talk about strange and suspicious phenomena that occur in military camps and areas, and some of them talk about terrifying experiences that soldiers were exposed to in battles and wars. Horror stories in the army differ from one country to another, as these stories are influenced by the traditions, culture, and military history of each country. Sounds at night. A group of soldiers were standing guard on a mysterious site deep in the forest. As night fell and darkness spread everywhere, the soldiers gathered around the campfire to keep warm, pass the time, and chat a little. There were 3 soldiers on guard duty in the meantime, including a soldier named John. Suddenly, Private Soldier John appeared out of nowhere, panting, and was staring at the dark and looking around in a striking way, as if he was afraid of something. His fear was noticed by his colleagues, who asked him what was going on with him. So he told them that he heard the voice of a girl calling him by his name, and felt her breath and saw her shadow moving in the darkness, but he could not leave his place of guard at the beginning, until she called him repeatedly and he felt the hand of one of them messing with the hair of his head, and this is impossible because he wears his own helmet and never took it off his head. Everyone thought it was just a fantasy because of the loneliness and darkness that surrounded them, or that John was messing with them and doing one of the silly pranks, and then the leader guessed what he was saying and promised him punishment if he was mocking them, but he remained insisting on the validity of his story. Something moves in the dark and approaches them. The soldiers took their weapons lying next to them and expressed their readiness for the appearance of anything attacking them at any moment, but nothing happened. Suddenly someone shouted, "Where did John go? He was standing right next to me." The night turned into a nightmare as Private John vanished into the darkness and the girl whose voice he was hearing disappeared, and the voice they heard turned into a frightening and unceasing scream. Something was suddenly appearing and attacking the soldiers, causing them some injuries, and smashing their weapons. The soldiers were able to send a distress message, and in the morning the support squad arrived and the soldiers were rescued, but they found the body of Private John, while he was embracing a small plate that contained a picture of a young girl. This girl was the daughter of a fisherman who was killed by a soldier in the same area, and Private John was the soldier who killed her. Since then, the girl's spirit has been roaming in that area, chasing the soldiers guarding the site and turning to killing and harming them, as it did with Soldier John, and it seems that she is determined to chase them until she takes revenge on them all. The brave soldier, the Marine Brigade, was conducting deep exercises in the oceans, specifically in one of the modern submarines that used nanotechnology to survive in deep waters for long periods. The crew was working perfectly, and the job was very elaborate and almost completed, but suddenly things changed. In the middle of the night, huge sea creatures approached the submarine and started attacking it relentlessly. The submarine shook violently, shattering glass in the main dome, and shattering the submarine's primary systems. Everyone hastened to get out and get rid of the sunken submarine, but they knew that this would not happen unless the part filled with water was closed and separated from the rest of the submarine, and this only happens from the inside, which means that someone must sacrifice himself. But while everyone was retreating and saving themselves, they were surprised by one of the soldiers rushing towards the main dome, and they realized that he intended to stay and die with the submarine. Nobody recognized this soldier, however, he was loyal to the submarine crew, who did not expect anyone to sacrifice himself, and suddenly the door separating the main compartment from the rest of the submarine closed, and the balance of the submarine was restored, and everyone came out, and everyone was safe, but everyone knew that the soldier would never come out. The next day, the submarine crew returned to the naval base. Everyone was talking about the mysterious soldier who sacrificed himself to save them, but no one knew who he was or what his secret was. No one knew that the soldier who sacrificed himself was already dead. His spirit had remained trapped inside the submarine in which he had died, and the spirit wanted to protect everyone from the danger they were in. They came to this fact after the military leadership took care of this issue and ordered the examination of old files and searches in the archives, and indeed they found that the soldier who sacrificed himself had died some time ago. Where his diaries were found, in which he talked about his experience on the submarine and his inability to deal with the psychological pressure he was suffering from, and that he decided to admit this and commit suicide inside the submarine. The military leadership decided to honor the spirit of the soldier who gave his life to save the crew, and the story was spread around the world. The soldier who sacrificed himself became a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and loyalty to duty. Since then there have been many similar incidents at sea, and whenever submarines are attacked, the spirit of the soldier who gave his life to help the crew emerges. In this way, the soldier who sacrificed himself continued to protect the people from the misfortunes of war and fighting.